Tom Brady has done it again. Tom Brady has won another Super Bowl. Unbelievable. Absolutely amazing. I mean, it's just, I would say I'm shocked, but I'm not when it comes to Tom Brady, but I am at the same time because I didn't expect it. I didn't expect Tom Brady and the Buccaneers to win this football game. I didn't. I didn't. But this team was built to win now. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were built to win this season. The talent level was off the charts. You could argue that they had the most talent in the league when this season started. You just looked at on paper. When you looked at the Buccaneers on paper, you saw Brady, you saw Godwin, you saw Evans, you saw Gronk ultimately, Antonio Brown at some point. You saw that. And defensively, you saw a lot of guys. Shaquille Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Devin White. I mean, you saw a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. You saw a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. And it came together ultimately for the Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl. Tom Brady won number 7. And we could talk about Tom Brady winning number 7. He was special. I mean, he did his part. He did his job. But that defense, that's the story of the playoffs when I talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, you got to talk about Brady because he's made the plays. But that defense is why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are Super Bowl champions. I mean, you look at what they did in these playoffs. 7 turnovers in the playoffs before the Super Bowl. So in a while, they got 7 turnovers and they scored 41 points off those turnovers. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cashed in on the turnovers. That's what they done all playoff long. And they just frustrated Patrick Mahomes. And you knew it could be a struggle for Mahomes and the Chiefs because of the tackle situation. Eric Fisher out. That was a huge loss. They had to move guys around. And ultimately, that's a very difficult proposition when you got Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaquille Barrett on the other side. So, wow. It's amazing. It's stunning, but it's not shocking. And, here's the thing. Here's the interesting part. We look at this Kansas City Chiefs team and we thought dynasty, dynasty, dynasty. And the reality of it is this team, Tom Brady has stepped in the middle of that dynasty, if you will. You remember the first time, 2018, in the AFC Championship game, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs went up against the New England Patriots and Tom Brady. Ultimately, Tom Brady and the New England Patriots beat Patrick Mahomes in the AFC title game in overtime. So Tom Brady is kind of, we want to say this Chiefs team was going to be a dynasty. I remember Chris Jones talking about it this week during Super Bowl Media Week. Hey, we could be a dynasty. We have the talent, the ability. We have all the guys here to be a dynasty. But Tom Brady is the one who's been stepping in the middle of that and stopping and preventing the dynasty. He prevented it back in 2018, and he prevented it here today. Tom Brady has stepped in front of a Chiefs dynasty. And you look at it from this standpoint. I mean, coming into this matchup, like Tony Romo said, this was a matchup between a Jordan and LeBron. Tom Brady was Jordan. Patrick Mahomes was LeBron. And the reality of it is, Jordan, like many people believe, still finds a way or found a way to get it done. I mean, you look at the game, and Patrick Mahomes was under duress a lot. And, coming into this game with the turf toe, I mean, he was still able to move. He still had escapability. But, obviously he was limited to an extent. Not a big time, but he was limited. But that defense came after him and had him under duress. They hit him, and they made the plays necessary. And now, the Kansas City Chiefs lose in the Super Bowl, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are Super Bowl champions. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. And 7 Super Bowls for Tom Brady at this point. We're talking 7 Super Bowls. I mean, that's just unheard of, 7 Super Bowls. I mean, when does it stop? I mean, he's 43 years old and still playing at a high level. 43 years old, you're not supposed to do. You look at the numbers, 21 for 29, 3 touchdowns, 201 yards. Not eye-popping, not gaudy, but darn, man, they were productive. They were some productive yards, and he made some productive plays. He didn't have any turnovers. Rob Gronkowski, he had 2 touchdowns. He made plays. Leonard Fournette, he made plays out of the backfield and running the ball as well. He made plays. And ultimately, again, they win it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers win it. And let's look at, to me, one of the biggest drives in this game was that second quarter there, where first you had the interception by the Honey Badger, but there was a penalty for holding. And then ultimately they were going to kick a field goal. The Chiefs player was offsides. Ultimately, they took the points off the board. Brady, a couple plays later, hits Gronk. And now instead of a 10-3 situation, it was a 14-3 situation. And so that was a huge moment. That was a huge situation in this game. If you hold, first of all, if you get the interception, obviously they don't score any points. Now, if you just stay on sides, obviously they just get the field goal. But again, they jumped offside. They were offsides, lined up offsides. And ultimately, because of that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to score. So it's a lot of things. And you wonder coming into this game, and I'm not saying it had an impact on it at all, but the situation with Britt Reed, Andy Reid's son, coming into this game, you had to think, man, how is this guy going to coach in this game? How is he going to be able to coach in this game? And he did it. He got through, but you don't know the impact this had on him. And I know Andy Reid has coached when his kids were getting in trouble in Philadelphia during the time in Philadelphia. He coached through all that. But, it was a difficult time for Andy Reid. Had to be. These are your children. And to see that situation with Britt Reid, first and foremost, condolences to the family of the young girls, I should say, who were involved in that accident. Let's hope, let's pray that they can fully recover and be all right. But, man, that's just a difficult situation for anybody to deal with. And maybe for Andy, this was an escape for him. Being able to coach this game was maybe a welcome distraction on some level. Who knows? But, a lot of people are saying about the penalties. There was the pass interference on Mike Evans near the end of the half. And, there was a couple of the pass interference in the end zone with the Honey Badger. There was plays, there was people, there was some situations out there. But, at the end of the day, the Buccaneers were a team built to win this year. The Buccaneers had a talented roster. There was not many teams more talented than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming into this season. They came in with a very talented roster, with a group of very talented players. And ultimately, on paper, people were saying, well, this was a championship caliber team. If we're talking strictly on paper, many people were saying this was championship caliber. If Brady plays like Brady, the defense and the talent they have there, obviously the talent, look, let's look at it. Jameis Winston last season threw for 5,000 yards, threw for 33 touchdowns, but he also threw for 30 interceptions. And, you have that many turnovers, 41 turnovers this offense had last season. 41. That's a lot. I believe they were minus 13 in the turnover margin last year. This year they were plus 8. So that turnover margin and you take all the turnovers out of it and you get a guy like Brady who's, efficient, who doesn't turn the football over, well, that changes things. And it changed things for this football team, changed the fortunes of this football team, and ultimately, they win the Super Bowl. And yes, the defense was huge in this and huge throughout these playoffs. This defense came to the party. Credit to Todd Bowles. This guy deserves at some point, at some time, another opportunity to be a head coach in this league. He devised a big-time game plan that allowed this Buccaneers defense to have success, allowed this Buccaneers defense to eat during these playoffs, and they ate well. They ate well during these playoffs, whether it was the turnovers. They played some big-time football on the defensive end. So kudos to that defense. Kudos to that defense and the plays they made time after time after time. And the quarterbacks. We're talking about 3 of the best quarterbacks in football, whether you talk about Drew Brees, whether you talk about Aaron Rodgers, and then now you end up with Patrick Mahomes. So three guys, three legitimate Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks. I mean, Drew Brees is going to the Hall. Aaron Rodgers is going to the Hall. And when it's all said and done, Patrick Mahomes will be in the Hall. So you talk about three Hall of Famers in this defense, whether it was Drew Brees, forcing 3 interceptions against Drew Brees, which was huge and big time. That was big time. Whether it was, shutting down Aaron Rodgers and doing the necessary things to win that football game, big time. And now against Patrick Mahomes, who many people believe could be the GOAT of the National Football, the GOAT when it's all said and done, when his career is finished, you shut him down too. You made him look mortal. He threw 2 interceptions in this game. He was mortal. He didn't even throw a touchdown in this game. He was mortal. Patrick Mahomes looked mortal in this game. He was mortal. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and the things that he's done throughout the course of his career and in the plays that he's made, no one has beat Patrick Mahomes the way he was beaten today. No one. No one. And so they beat Patrick Mahomes up. They forced him errant throws. They got after him. They made him uncomfortable. And, it translated onto the football field, him, and his uncomfortability. It translated. And so a credit to that defense. Credit to Todd Bowles. I mean, it's just amazing, man. This is amazing what we're seeing. Tom Brady is 43 years old. A 43-year-old man ain't supposed to do what Tom Brady is doing. He's not. I mean, you just marvel at the things that he does. I mean, the plays that he makes, his ability to stay healthy. I mean, the man stays healthy at the age of 43. TB12. I need to buy the book. I need to follow the recipes. I need to try the avocado ice cream. I need to do all the things that Tom Brady does to be successful. Whatever he does, all of us need to follow it because this guy is amazing. You're not supposed to do what he's doing at 43. At some point, at some time, at some moment, we would think this man would act his age. He's not. This dude is doing things that he's not supposed to be doing. He's not. You're not supposed to do this at age 43. You're not supposed to throw 40 touchdowns in the season at age 43. You're not supposed to win a Super Bowl at the age of 43. You're not supposed to do it. What? How old was he when he won 2018? Was he 40? He won it at 40. You're not supposed to do it. You're not. And Tom Brady, each and every time, defies logic. He defies logic. And, he wins Super Bowls. All he does is win. And that's just the reality of the situation. 10 Super Bowls, 7-3 in Super Bowl play. And you could argue it could be easily better than that. Or you could argue it could be a little worse. I mean, Atlanta Falcons 28-3. We could look at that game. We could also look at Marshawn Lynch and Pete Carroll and the defense. And I forgot the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks that year, but decided to throw the ball. And Malcolm Butler got the pick instead of running the football with Marshawn Lynch, one of the best short yardage backs in football. And so it's crazy. It is crazy. It is crazy. It is crazy. And so you wonder, is Brady the GOAT of sports? Is he the GOAT of all sports? And a conversation has to be had. I mean, his ability to do what he's doing, man, at this age is ridiculous. I mean, you are not supposed to do these things. So 7 Super Bowls, 10 Super Bowl appearances. I mean, we do have to have that conversation. Is he the GOAT of all sports? I mean, Michael Jordan, 6 NBA titles, 6-0 in NBA Finals play. Tom Brady, 7-3. I mean, 10 Super Bowl appearances, I think is more impressive than 6 NBA Finals appearances. And, it all depends what your criteria is. I mean, obviously, Brady, in terms of his, him as an athlete, you look at him, he's not super athletic. He's not like a Bo Jackson, ultimately who was a big time athlete in the game of baseball, big time athlete in football. Not a Deion Sanders who again was good in football, good in baseball. He's not along that. He's not an athlete, a good big time athlete and a great athlete and a go to athletes and go to sports in terms of that. But we look at just accomplishments and what he's done. And I mean, to do it at this level, to do it the way he's doing it at his age, I mean, yeah, sure. Tom Brady, I mean, he easily could be the GOAT of sports. I mean, the conversation has to be had. Like, we have to just sit down and look at these things and just figure out a criteria. But my goodness, we know this one thing. Let's be clear. We know he is the GOAT of the NFL. And we know that Patrick Mahomes, while he's coming, he's not there yet. He's not there yet. And I wonder what Patrick Mahomes, in terms of his toe, if that had an impact on him. I don't think it did, because he wasn't able to move the way he completely can move, but he was able to move and was able to get out of the way of the rush. He was able to do what he needed to do to be successful out there. That was a case of that Buccaneers defense just getting after him. And they did what they had to do in this game. They schemed him well. It seemed like, Tyreek Hill didn't really get off today. They did a good job of controlling him. Kelsey got his yardage, but it wasn't big time. It wasn't crazy. It wasn't anything. They contained everybody. And, this game, football is won in the trenches. And the Buccaneers on the defensive line, their ability to get after people, getting after guys, I mean, it's huge. I mean, they get after you, and they've gotten after everybody. They sacked Aaron Rodgers 5 times. They got after him. And so they got after people, and ultimately this team, and here's also the thing coming into this game. Part of my thought process was this also. Can Tom Brady get these boys back? I don't know. At some point, he'll be 44. At some point, and I don't know when that's going to be. And I'm just going to sit back and watch. I'm not going to even predict. I don't know. But at some point, he's going to be 44 years old. And at some point, you got to look 44. I mean, at some point, you're going to look like you're in your 40s. At some point. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know. But it's going to happen at some point. It's going to happen at some point. And you also look at some of the moves that they made. Getting Gronk. That was a huge move. That helped. Obviously, it paid dividends in the Super Bowl. He was huge. Leonard Fournette. It was big. Leonard Fournette was big in this Super Bowl and was solid in these playoffs. Leonard Fournette is a big time back. He's a good running back. I mean, he just ran his course in Jacksonville. They had no shot of winning. They weren't looking to win this season, and so it made no sense to have Leonard Fournette in that locker room. But man, and in terms of the official sword of the morning, yes, talking about the officials, I wanted. If we watch the NFC Championship game, right, they let those guys play. You did a lot of hand fighting. You saw a lot of things that normally maybe should have been called, and they didn't call it. They only called it. They called it at the end there with the Buccaneers got that first down and ultimately won the football game. But I didn't like the way the officials called this game. I didn't. I'm not going to say that's the reason that the Buccaneers won, and that's the reason the Kansas City Chiefs lost. I'm not going to say that. But what I am going to say is that I wanted to let these guys play. Let the players decide who's going to win the Super Bowl. The officials should be out the way, just like they were out the way in the NFC title game. They should have let these boys play. Yes, I thought they should have let them play. And were some of these calls, in terms of the letter of the law, were they legitimate calls? Probably. But at the end of the day, let these guys play. Let them play. Let them figure this out. Let the players decide who's going to win Super Bowl 55. And just looking at Tampa Bay, I mean, you went on the road. You went on the road in the wild card round, divisional round, and the NFC Championship game. And ultimately, you were able to get that home playoff game in your the home Super Bowl. First time it's ever happened, Super Bowl in your building. And you wonder, the Chiefs got here Saturday. Did that have an impact on things? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. But, for them to do this, it was amazing. It was surprising. It was shocking. And Gronk didn't really have a Gronk type season. He really didn't. And he really didn't have a Gronk type season. But he made the plays necessary for this team to be successful. He sacrificed on some level, whether it's blocking. Gronk did his thing in terms of blocking. He did everything that he needed to do to be successful. And you wonder now, does Gronk call it quits again? I mean, he retired after his last Super Bowl victory they got with New England. Does he do it? Does he retire again? Does he say this is enough? I'm done. I don't want to do this no more. I'm going out on top. Does Brady say, I'm going out on top? I'm done after this? I don't know. I doubt it. Tom Brady strikes me as a dude who's going to play as till the wheels fall off. I mean, he's going to continue to play. I mean, obviously the TB12, it works. So again, for those who are out here, if you're a little overweight, if you're trying to maybe get your body back to the way it was when it was younger, you need to follow TB12. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what I heard about some avocado ice cream. I don't know what it is, but I haven't read it. Don't know nothing about it. But the TB12 clearly works. That's clear. That's obvious. It works. It works. So, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in Super Bowl title after Super Bowl title after Super Bowl title. That's your proof. 7 Super Bowl titles. That's your proof. So if you needed any other proof, well, you got it. The 7 Super Bowl titles. Unbelievable. Unreal. It's crazy. It's just crazy to see what is going on, what is happening. I mean, this was a long NFL season, a season at times that we didn't think the NFL was going to get through. I mean, you were like, with COVID, with a pandemic, with everything that's going on in this world, you didn't think the NFL was going to be able to get through this season. They got through, and they got through, and they made it to the end. I mean, it was touch and go at times. There was cancellations, postponements, not cancellation, but postponements. But ultimately, when it was all said and done, they got here. They made it to this point, to this time, to this destination. And ultimately, they were able to crown a champion. And that champion is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bruce Arians gets his first time in the Super Bowl as a head coach, and he wins a Super Bowl. Tom Brady obviously wins Super Bowl number 7. And you got guys who never tasted the playoffs before this year. Levante David never tasted the playoffs, didn't know what that tastes like. William Goldston didn't know what the playoffs tasted like. And now they got a taste, and they got a good taste, man. This is not your average taste. I mean, they got themselves a good taste of the Super Bowl. I mean, of these playoffs. They got to the Super Bowl. They got a nice taste. Make sure you make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you like this video. But man, oh man, Super Bowl 55 in Tampa Bay. We never thought we would get here, but we got here. We never thought that. I didn't never in my wildest dreams. If you told me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will win Super Bowl 55 and the Kansas City Chiefs would score only 5 points and Patrick Mahomes wouldn't throw no touchdowns, I would have thought you were crazy. I mean, no one has shut down this offense. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, the dude, you saw some of the throws that he was making, whether it was going to the ground and, Patrick Mahomes can make any and all throws. He was making ridiculous throws going to the ground, backpedaling, running around, things of that nature. He was making the throws and putting guys in position to make some catches. Ultimately, some of the guys they would have been tough catches, but they didn't get it done. And Tyreek Hill, he was shut down. I mean, they did a good job of keeping him under wraps. Kept him under wraps. I mean, this dude, had 200 yards against the Buccaneers in the first quarter? Many moons ago? 200 yards in the first quarter? Many moons ago? I mean, it was crazy. And he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything in this particular game. I mean, he did okay, but he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And then Tom Brady, obviously Super Bowl MVP, his fifth Super Bowl MVP. No surprise, no surprise. Will Mahomes ever be able to catch Brady? 7 Super Bowls is a lot of Super Bowls. Is it impossible with the offensive talent that the Kansas City Chiefs have? No, I mean, you look at this roster, Kansas City. You look at this offense; it's big time. It's huge. I mean, they could do a lot of different things on this offense and make a lot of plays on this offense. But it's difficult to get to the Super Bowl, and as we saw this year, it's difficult to repeat. It's difficult to do. I mean, Tom Brady and the Patriots were the last to do it, 2004. Last team to do it was Brady and the Patriots. So, obviously Brady can do it and has done it, but it's going to be difficult to win 7 Super Bowl titles for anybody, including Patrick Mahomes. 25 years old. I mean, theoretically, it's possible, but a lot has to go right. I mean, with the Patriots, you had that coach and quarterback combination of Brady and Belichick. Belichick, one of the greatest coaches to ever do it, and Brady, obviously, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever do it. But you had that quarterback combination. You had that coach and quarterback combination. And here with the Kansas City Chiefs, you have that coach and quarterback combination with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But Andy Reid, won the Super Bowl last year, has had a lot of success. But Andy Reid's had some setbacks as well in terms of big games, big moments. Andy Reid has lost some games that many believe he should have won, including this one. Coming into this game, many people believed, and obviously Vegas believed, that the Kansas City Chiefs should have won this Super Bowl. That's what Vegas believed, right? That's what many people believe, that Kansas City Chiefs should have won this Super Bowl. So you could argue, I mean, and Andy Reid has lost some games with the Eagles where you're saying, I don't know if any Eagles fans on here, but if you go back 2002, the 2002 season where they closed the vet against the Buccaneers, that was a game that many people believe they should have won. I mean, the Eagles had so much success against the Buccaneers in previous years in the playoffs. And you thought that, the Eagles closing the vet and everything, that you thought they were going to win that game. They didn't do it. They didn't do it in the following year. I mean, a home playoff game, NFC Championship game, Carolina Panthers. And again, they didn't do it. So Andy Reid has had moments, has times where he was the favorite, where many people believed that he was going to win it, and he didn't do it. He ended up not doing it, ended up not getting it done. So coach and quarterback combination means something. And Brady Belichick, Belichick has won big games after big games after big games, and Brady's won big games after big games. And, Andy Reid and Mahomes, Andy Reid's won some big games, but Andy Reid's come up short in some big moments. So something to think about in terms of that. You're going to need that coach and quarterback combination to be tight. And I don't know if who knows? And you wonder what's going to happen with Andy Reid, especially with the situation with his son. We don't know how that whole situation going to handle, it's going to work out with Britt Reid and everything. But does Andy decide, he's going to walk away? Who knows? I don't think so. I mean, Britt Reid is 35 years old, so he's an adult. But, Andy has dealt with this before in the past with his children in terms of them, misbehaving and doing things they're not necessarily supposed to be doing. So Andy's dealt with this in the past. He knows what this looks like. And so, he's got to figure it out. He's got to, figure that situation out, and we don't know what's going to happen there. Let's just hope for the best for all parties involved, especially the young children involved in the accident. But, I mean, it's just, you wonder if that was on his head. You wonder if that was on his head. And so, and that's a difficult thing to coach through, you would think. And I mean, I've never coached through that. I've never coached, period. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that feels like. I don't know what that sounds like. I don't know anything. But on the surface, it would have to be difficult. Most people, if they were dealing with something like that, their job probably would call out the next day, with that sitting over their head, dealing with that issue, that problem, that situation. So, it's a tough situation. It truly is a tough situation for Andy Reid and his family. Tough. Man, wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So, I mean, Brady, and can he keep doing this? Can they keep winning? Can they keep getting this done? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I just think at some point he's 43. You know, 43 has to look. I mean, he's going to be 44 next year. At some point, he's got to look his age, right? It would be only natural that a 40-plus-year-old quarterback would look like a 40-plus-year-old quarterback. It would be only natural that a 40-plus-year-old quarterback would, maybe get banged up, maybe even get injured. I mean, the body at 43 is totally different at 24. 44 is totally different than 24 and what it can take and the things that it can go through. Now, there's a lot of different sciences out here that allows us to be able to do things maybe that we didn't think was possible in the past. But I mean, at some point, age is just not a number, unfortunately. I mean, we all want age to be a number at times, but age is just more than a number. So we'll see how that whole situation plays out. You know what I mean? We'll see how it all plays out. Um, can Brady? I mean, NFL there is a salary cap, and the salary cap is totally different than the NBA salary cap, and so obviously you have to watch what that looks like and see what that looks like, and see what you can do. I mean, Leonard Fournette, I believe, was on a 1-year deal. For example, Leonard Fournette's on a 1-year deal. He's probably going to get paid somewhere. Somebody's going to pay Leonard Fournette. Might put himself in an opportunity where he gets paid. So you got to look at that as well. So it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be, I believe Chris Godwin's a free agent as well. So that's somebody they have to look at and determine what's next for him. So, I mean, they got some questions. I mean, Antonio Brown, I believe, was on a 1-year contract. I don't know what's going to happen to him. Maybe, he will want to go somewhere else for bigger money. Who knows? I mean, so there's a lot of variables, obviously, when it comes to keeping together a team, especially in the NFL. A little easier in other sports, a little easier in the NBA to keep a championship caliber team together. It's harder in the NFL. It's a lot harder, more guys, more variables, and just, salary cap is different type of salary cap. NFL is more of a hard cap. NBA cap is a little softer. So little different things and, maneuvers that you can do on an NBA roster in comparison to an NFL roster. And so much has to go right for you. And it's so hard to repeat. Again, the last team to have repeated was the Patriots in 2004, 2003, 2004. So that's a difficult proposition. It's very difficult to repeat. It is not easy. So if the Buccaneers don't repeat next year, don't be surprised, because we all thought the Kansas City Chiefs, there was a good chance they were going to repeat. We all thought they were going to win this football game. It didn't happen. It did not happen. And ultimately, we don't know what it's so difficult in the NFL because you have injuries to worry about. And injuries are a game changer. Eric Fisher being out may have been a game changer because, the game is won in the trenches. It's won at the line of scrimmage. And when you don't have, maybe your best offensive lineman there, it's difficult, man. It's difficult to replace that. It's difficult to keep going. It's difficult to keep striving. It's difficult to keep winning football games when you don't have the necessary guys up front to protect your quarterback. Patrick Mahomes was on the run today. He was on the run today. And, he didn't get sacked a lot, but he was on the run. And they did a good job of making him uncomfortable. And how about this? LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy said earlier this week he was the rabbit's foot, if you will, the good luck charm. LaShawn McCoy, Kansas City Chiefs, he came to Kansas City expecting to have a different type of role. Ultimately, he didn't. He ended up being a guy who didn't have a big-time role. I think he was inactive for the Super Bowl. And then you have LaShawn McCoy this year. Expected to come to Tampa Bay, have a big-time role. They signed Leonard Fournette. Ultimately, it changed things. And you look at it, that changed things for LaShawn McCoy. So he didn't have the big-time role that he thought he was going to have. And ultimately, he was a guy that's relegated to the bench. I think he only had 10 carries this year, something like that, 31 yards, something like that. So, LaShawn McCoy is that good luck charm, if you will. So if you want to win a Super Bowl next year, look at LaShawn McCoy. Because, he went to Kansas City. They won a Super Bowl for the first time, I think, 50 years. And then he went to Tampa Bay. They won a Super Bowl for the first time in 18, 19 years. So it's that simple. Maybe it's all about LaShawn McCoy. I think it's very simple game to evaluate. Casey's offensive line was not NFL caliber, especially at the offensive tackle. Yes, it is, like you said. I mean, like I said earlier, it's one at the line of scrimmage. And when you don't have your tackles there, I mean, when you have to move guys around on an offensive line, it's different, especially when you have the defensive line that they have for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, Shaq Barrett is a guy who had 19 sacks 2 years ago. I mean, JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, all pro. I mean, not all pro, Pro Bowl, played some big time football this year. And those guys, they were sacking guys in the playoffs. I mean, they were getting after a quarterback in the playoffs. So this is not surprising. This is not shocking. And yes, the game is won at the line of scrimmage. And when you don't have those guys at the line of scrimmage who can help you win football games, it's difficult. It's difficult. And so now, and that's the difficulty of football, man. It's not easy to repeat. So so in terms of the Kansas City Chiefs not repeating, it's not shocking because of the difficulty that it is to repeat, how hard it is to repeat. What has to go right for you to repeat? What has to go wrong for other teams for you to repeat? It's a difficult proposition, man. And so for Kansas City, for them not to do it, it's not shocking or surprising, and they didn't get it done. They didn't get it done. And Tampa Bay on the other side of the field, man, with that defense, with Tom Brady, with Leonard Fournette and the playmaking that he had in the Super Bowl, with all those guys. And Leonard Fournette, you look at Leonard Fournette, he went to the AFC Championship game. He went to the AFC Championship game his first year. And then, he ain't made the playoffs since. This is his first time making the playoffs since that time. And ultimately, he got to the Super Bowl. Place that, is very difficult to get to. He got there. So, I'm about to get out of here now. Pleasure, talking this Super Bowl 55, Make sure you like this particular video. Like. Make sure you subscribe, and support the channel. It's a great channel. Got a lot of great things going on here. So come on back, and make sure you subscribe. We talk a lot of sports. We have a lot of fun doing it. Super Bowl 55 is in the books. Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are champions. Tom Brady wins Super Bowl number 7. Absolutely amazing, incredible, unbelievable. And any other adjective you want to use to describe what transpired, what happened here. I mean, you are not supposed to do this at the age of 43. You're not. It's impossible. But he did it. So make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Stay out of COVID's way. And stay healthy and do what you got to do big things in 2021. Peace.